lot more for what you're doing because you're actually not charging enough.
Yeah, you think you're charging X, but actually you're charging Y, and we don't always realize that we're doing that, but we also we need to educate our clients.
It's the same with this business.
Yeah.
It's like anytime I'm doing work for a client, even if I say it's just a half-day shoot, it's going to take me a half a day prep, making sure that the equipment's okay. It then takes another day or two planning, making sure the script is okay, making sure that all the shots that we need to cover, the brief and everything. And it's surprising where the unseen time goes.
Yeah.
But we don't calculate it because we're like, oh, well, the customer's paid and this is what I'm doing and this is part of the service.
Yeah.
And we don't really think about it. Right, I'm not getting paid for this time and I should be.
Yeah. So then, that is a slightly different discussion, because it's then looking at how you price things, because it isn't just about the client facing time in, like in a role like you say, you've just described everything that you do. And like I say, it's the same in a lot of industries. Like I said, like actually they think they're paying for 2 hours, but they're not. They're paying for 8. So it's more about the value rather than the time as well. So, sometimes I might be having that discussion with a client about how they price, it could be, like that could be something that, because it is actually going, right, okay, you've just, you've spent 8 hours and you're actually only charged, you've told me that your rate is, X, and actually you're only charging them for 2, but you've done 8 hours. So, yeah.
So that's another part of the business that people perhaps don't realize that you are going to help with, is the fact that you're fundamentally going to be fetching other people in.
Yeah.
But you could go, hang on,
Yeah.
you're seriously undercharging here, and given that the market that you're in, you can be charging a lot more for what you're doing because you're actually not charging enough.
Yeah. Yeah. You think you're charging X, but actually you're charging Y, and we don't always realize that we're doing that, but we also we need to educate our clients. Partly it is, well, like when you speak to a potential client, it's like, yes, they don't need to know the nitty gritty, but they do need to understand that they're not actually just paying you for the 2 hours that you're there.
And it's okay to be more expensive.
Yes.
Because I can't remember where I heard it from, but someone said, you're either going to be too expensive for some, you're either going to be too cheap for others.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you think you're pricing at, that's always going to be the same. It's like, I know that there are certain companies that would never employ me because my rate is too cheap for what, and they would be like, well, no, we can't take you seriously because you're only charging X.
Yeah. And I think that's like a slightly, it's a slightly different thing, but it's still something that I can have conversations with, like I could look at,
I gotta stop throwing problems at it.
Yeah, but no, but I've got, I could go, right, okay, you're my new client. Actually, what I'm going to do is go and look at what other people charge for similar stuff. And then I'll go, hang on a minute, you're only charging 200 quid. This, this guy down the road is charging 1,000.
And they're nowhere near as good as you.
And actually, when I've looked at what they're doing, it's perception, and so we don't necessarily do ourselves any favors, because people have a tendency to equate a cost with a quality, and that isn't necessarily, it's really important when you like if somebody's looking to do business with you, it's really important for them to actually look at the output, what you've done for other people, to see whether you are, like whether you're the right person. It's like, yes, it's slightly, with me, it is slightly harder because I'm hidden, like we mentioned Socket earlier, and I was the duty manager on the day for the Zocket Expo last October. Now, my whole aim was really to be almost invisible that day. You know, if you saw me, you would have seen me running around like a mad thing, because I was making sure that everything was running properly. But I am in the background so that my client is there in the front. You know, my client was able to be out on the expo floor, talking to visitors, talking to exhibitors, you know, doing the networking. Whereas if I hadn't been there, they would have had to have been doing what I was doing, making sure that the talks were running, starting on time, finishing on time, that people, you know, like somebody needed a gluten-free lunch. I needed to make sure that they got their gluten-free lunch, you know, like silly little things, but it takes up time. And my client didn't have to worry about anything apart from customer facing, because everything was being done.
Which is where they want to be in the business, and it's the same place where I want to be. I want to be customer facing. I want to build that relationship and instill that confidence and know that the system underneath me represents that.
Yes.
Fantastic. So